This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
In Davos, President Trump says the U.S. has reached a deal with Denmark on Greenland. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Millions in the path of a snow and ice storm gathering strength in the nation's midsection.
We could see some power outages as well as some tree damage.
And I'm Bob Brown. That story coming up.
A congressional committee moves to send contempt charges against Bill and Hillary Clinton for a full House vote. I'm Jeff McKay.
Age limits proposed across all judicial branches. I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, stocks were higher yesterday on what President Trump is calling the concept of a deal on Greenland. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Ex-NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya has launched her campaign for U.S. Republican Senator from Minnesota. I'm Donna Warder.
All ahead on America in the Morning. President Trump in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum, where he says he struck a deal involving Greenland and backed off on the European tariffs he threatened just days before. John Stolnis has a recap from Washington.
In a nearly 2-hour speech, the president once again put the pressure on Denmark and other European leaders to back his efforts to acquire the semi-autonomous country.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. But I won't do that, okay? Now everyone's saying, oh, good. That's probably the biggest statement I made, because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
After numerous references to Greenland in his speech, mistakenly calling it Iceland on 4 separate occasions, Trump announced on Truth Social and then later to reporters that a deal had been struck.
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
No further details on what's in the agreement, but it appears the Greenland situation is resolved. Trump's rhetoric toward European leaders, however, remained confrontational. He reminded Europe of American involvement in World War II.
Then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps.
Some believe the Greenland deal will soothe worries of Trump fracturing NATO.
I'm helping NATO, and I've until the last few days when I told them about Iceland, they loved me. They called me daddy, right, the last time. A very smart man said he's our daddy.
He also called out Europe for immigration policies he said are damaging their countries.
We can argue about it, but there's no argument. Friends come back from different places. I don't want to insult anybody and say I don't recognize it. And that's not in a positive way. That's in a very negative way.
Trump saved some harsh rhetoric for other allies, including Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who offered a rebuke of the president in Davos the day before.
Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
California Governor Gavin Newsom was in attendance for Trump's speech.
It was remarkably boring. It was remarkably insignificant. He was never going to invade Greenland. It was never real.
President Trump is set to return to Washington later today. John Stolnis, Washington.
A massive winter storm stretching from Texas to the Carolinas and up to the Northeast will impact 35 states and more than half of the American population by this weekend. Bob Brown reports airlines and power companies are preparing for the worst with a combination of ice, heavy snow, and Arctic temperatures expected.
Millions of Americans in 35 states will feel the impact of this developing snowstorm heading into the weekend and stretching into Monday. Forecasters say there could likely be blizzard conditions with snow measured in feet, even in parts of the South where they don't see this kind of snow. Forecasters with Fox 7 in Austin and KHOU-TV in Houston on top of things.
We're eventually going to start to see advisories and warnings probably across the entire viewing area because it does look like at some point most of us are expected to at least see some ice.
We are tracking new updates from the National Weather Service. They have now issued a winter storm watch for a majority of southeast Texas, and this is for this weekend, primarily through Saturday morning through Sunday afternoon. We could see some power outages as well as some tree damage possible with the possible ice accumulation.
The storm expected to move into the southeast. WCNR-TV in Charlotte, North Carolina.
We will see this get going Friday and then certainly over the weekend. We're talking about rain and green, a winter mix in between with maybe ice in the forecast here. Looks pretty likely, and then snow in blue as we head farther north into the mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, and eventually the Midwest.
The system eventually moving into the northeast with New York City directly in the path. WCBS-TV.
To see how the storm develops. This is not just a storm for us. Take advantage of the time we have before the storm to get ready for the worst. This is serious stuff.
Forecasters say the storm will leave bitter cold air in place going into next week. Bob Brown, New York.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Enjoy personalized comfort for better sleep night after night. And now, the more you buy, the more you save on beds, bases, and more. Limited time, only at Sleep Number or sleepnumber.com. Bill and Hillary Clinton facing contempt charges in Congress. That's when America in the Morning continues after these messages. America in the Morning continues. A big snow system on track for the weekend. Let's get today's forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A stalled front will continue to provide some active weather in the south today, but the Gulf moisture that was helping to spark this activity becomes more suppressed toward the immediate coast, so showers may not be quite as widespread or even as drenching as was the case yesterday, especially by later in the day. Regardless, showers should extend from far southeastern Texas into the high ground of northwestern South Carolina, but the highest risk for some steadier rain that lasts for more of the day is rather likely to be confined to a rounded area from the Louisiana-Mississippi border toward northwestern Georgia. However, showers also reach at least western parts of the Florida Panhandle. A separate disturbance brings some showers to South Florida as well, but much of that activity stays off the Atlantic coast instead. Following that stalled front to the north and east, it will link up with a cold front that has a bit more motion to it and enough moisture on the cold side of the storm for some steady snow at times from northeastern West Virginia through much of western Pennsylvania, at least to start the day. However, there can be snow showers essentially at any time from upstate New York through much of interior northern New England, even some heavier snow squalls that may briefly reduce visibility and put down a quick burst of snow. Total snow since yesterday should amount to at least 1 to 3 inches for these areas, with any amounts of 6 to 12 inches, most likely confined to areas downwind of Lakes Ontario and Erie. Lake-effect snow showers and some lighter flurries also continue over Michigan and Wisconsin, but much of the rest of the nation looks dry outside of some showers over Southern California, with extreme cold settling into the northern tier of the U.S. In Miles City, Montana, today looks mainly cloudy and colder, high 12. For Watertown, New York, watch for 1 to 3 inches of lake-effect snow and occasional squalls, high 31. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. A Republican-led congressional committee moves to send contempt charges against Bill and Hillary Clinton for a full House vote. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has details, which includes overwhelming approval from Democrats.
The House Oversight Committee voted to refer former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for chamber-wide votes on criminal contempt of Congress charges with the help of multiple Democrats. And among those Democrats signing off on the contempt charges, Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts and Rashida Tlaib of Michigan.
Former President Clinton and Secretary Clinton were legally required to appear for depositions before this committee. They refused.
Oversight Chair James Comer said the Clintons should not have resisted the subpoenas.
Bill Clinton's trying to play the victim card here. Only Bill Clinton could try to triangulate something that's happened, a terrible atrocity to these survivors that have had to endure who knows what from Epstein and Maxwell.
The vote will be in 2 weeks. Ghislaine Maxwell will also be called to testify, but her lawyers have said she will plead the Fifth and not answer any questions. The Clintons have insisted that the subpoena is withoot merit. They've been fighting the subpoena for months. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
Rahm Emanuel wants to institute a mandatory retirement age of 75 for the president and across branches of government. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The age requirement Rahm Emanuel is proposing is 75 years old. President Trump's almost 80, and former President Joe Biden was older than that when he left office. In a statement, Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago and ambassador to Japan, said, quote, "You're 75 years old. Done." And that would be in the legislative branch. It'd be in the executive branch, including the cabinet, and it would also be in the Supreme Court and all the federal courts, end quote. The 66-year-old would be 69 when sworn into office if he runs for and wins the 2028 presidential race. He would be 73 at the start of his second term and would, by his own standard, not be able to serve all 4 years. His proposal would make Donald Trump, who's 79, ineligible to continue serving as president. Emanuel's urging Congress to set the limit rather than attempt a constitutional amendment. I'm Clayton Neville.
Coming up, Trump and the art of the Greenland deal after these messages. With the Thursday Business Report, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a wild trading day yesterday. Stocks did finish higher on the concept of a deal over Greenland and the Arctic, according to President Trump, with NATO calling off tariffs on Europe. The Dow was up nearly 600 points, not quite making up for what it lost in Tuesday's sell-off. President Trump spoke with CNBC at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, about the Greenland deal, which does include mineral rights.
We have a concept of a deal. I think it's going to be a very good deal for the United States, also for them. And we're going to work together on something having to do with the Arctic as a whole, but also Greenland. And it has to do with the security, great security, strong security, and other things.
And here's CNBC's Eamon Javers in Washington.
The president said he's got a concept of a deal. It has something to do with the Arctic as a whole. He called it pretty much a concept of a deal. Joe pushed him on the idea of, is this going to be U.S. ownership of Greenland? And the president said, well, it's a little bit complex. We'll talk about it down the line. So the president not committing to any specifics of the deal that he's agreed to here that seems to have ratcheted down tensions.
For investors, it's not been just uncertainty, but instability, said Charles Schwab's Liz Ann Saunders on CNBC.
We are navigating sort of this constantly moving target. And I think you can apply that to geopolitics, to trade policy, to monetary policy. Instability is just a different animal.
Here's a take from Capital Wealth's Malcolm Etheridge on CNBC.
We're heading toward a midterm election where we're probably going to see the president get a little more aggressive in making sure that he enacts the last few pieces of his political agenda before the balance in Congress gets upset. And so we're probably going to get a lot more of these like existential shocks, which probably create a number of opportunities for investors, gives you those buying opportunities throughout the entire year.
Gold closed at a new record high yesterday, breaking $4,800 an ounce on the Greenland tariff threats. Natural gas prices are soaring, up 20% yesterday, heating oil prices at their highest since Thanksgiving. As an Arctic cold blast is poised to hit a large part of the U.S., heating demand is expected to spike. On today's watch list, the World Economic Forum continues in Davos, Switzerland. We get earnings today from Intel, Procter & Gamble, Abbott Labs, CSX, Alaska Air, and Capital One. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week, and the Academy Award nominations will be announced this morning.
When we return on America in the Morning, from the football stadium to Congress, after these messages. This is America in the Morning. He was just 15 years old when he was arrested, charged with doing the unthinkable. The North Carolina teenager who killed his brother and gunned down 4 neighbors in 2022 has pleaded guilty to the slayings just weeks before his trial was to begin. Austin Thompson, now 18, pleaded guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder and assault on a law enforcement officer. When he was 15, Thompson, armed with a .22 caliber rifle, fatally shot and stabbed his brother James Thompson in their Raleigh home, which touched off the murder spree. One of those killed was a Raleigh police officer who lived in the neighborhood and was leaving for work when he was gunned down. Thompson now faces a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Shifting gears from the football stadium sidelines to a seat in Congress, correspondent Donna Warder reports on a former NFL TV reporter announcing her candidacy for the U.S. Senate.
Ex-NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya has launched her campaign for U.S. Republican Senator from Minnesota. In a video posted on social media, Tafoya says that her career walking the sidelines when the pressure was mounting and the stakes were highest taught her about how leadership really works. In the video, she alludes to the immigration crackdown in her state, making clear that she stands with federal law enforcement.
For too long, hardworking people have been ripped off by criminals, corporations, and career politicians. And the people doing everything right are the ones paying the biggest price. Well, I'm not going to stay on the sidelines any longer.
Tafoya also takes shots at Democratic Governor Tim Walz for the fraud cases that have dogged his administration. She's been quickly endorsed by U.S. Republican Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. I'm Donna Warder.
America in the Morning for Thursday, January 22nd, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
An acquittal in Texas. I'm Clayton Neville.
The justices seemed inclined to keep Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook in her job. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
President Trump has backed off his planned tariffs on European allies over Greenland. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Immigration officers are asserting sweeping power to forcibly enter people's homes without a judge's warrant. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Correspondent Donna Warder reports on a scare aboard Air Force One. And Elon Musk wants to buy an airline.
A swath of Texan emails have been released in the legal case between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. A forecasted weekend storm system will have many people digging out. Here's today's forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A continued rather active pattern continues around the Great Lakes and into the interior Northeast today, where storm after storm this week has already delivered plowable snow, sometimes with very little in the way of a gap between them. In this case, a combination of a couple of cold fronts and the latest round of lake effect snow affecting this general area since yesterday will work together to create more flurries and snow showers from northern and central Wisconsin eastward through Michigan today. To the east of there, the risk for snow squalls becomes higher thanks to a bit more energy in the atmosphere, especially from western New York, including around Buffalo, through northern New York and mainly parts of New England close to the Canadian border as far east as Maine. Storm total snow since yesterday is expected to reach at least 1 to 3 inches in these areas, with amounts of up to a foot likely held closer to those stronger lake effect bands that develop off Lakes Erie and Ontario today. This front will catch up with one that starts to stall out toward the Gulf Coast as well, and that means that today looks wet, not white, from the Houston metro toward western South Carolina with some showers around today. The rain is most likely to be less intermittent and more steady in nature from southern Mississippi toward the Atlanta area, but yet another front stalled over South Florida brings the risk for showers there as well. Additional showers may form over southern California today, with a storm mainly off the coast still able to provide enough moisture for a bit of wet weather, but that's just about it for any additional precipitation west of the Mississippi River, with strong high pressure diving out of Canada, meaning bitter, dangerous cold sinking into the Dakotas and upper Midwest today. That cold will become much more widespread through the eastern United States in particular through the end of the week. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. Just hours after being handed to the jury, a former Uvalde, Texas school police officer is acquitted of the charges against him. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Those kids are not served. The memory of those children that I agree should be honored is not honored by an injustice in their name. It's not. And so we're asking you to find him not guilty.
A jury in Corpus Christi has acquitted former Uvalde school police officer Adrian Gonzalez for his response to the Robb Elementary shooting in May of 2022 that left 19 students and 2 teachers dead. The judge in the case read the verdict aloud.
In each of the 29 counts, we, the jury, find the defendant, Adrian Gonzalez, not guilty.
After more than 7 hours of deliberations, the jury returned a not guilty verdict on all 29 counts of child endangerment. Lawyers for Gonzalez thanked the jury.
They considered everything. They were very diligent. They worked very hard back there. They were very mindful and deliberate.
Attorney Nico LaHood.
We'd like to see more training with law enforcement in these situations that are so active and fluid and dangerous. And there's no one-size-fits-all for these situations, but also working with the schools. I think the schools need more funding.
Adrian Gonzalez himself spoke to reporters.
I want to start by thanking God for this, my family, my wife, and these guys are here. He put them in my path, and I'm just thankful for that. And thank you for the jury for considering all the evidence and making that verdict.
Gonzalez was among the first officers to respond to the mass shooting. It took 77 minutes before police ended the massacre and killed the shooter. The trial and the verdict garnered eyes from across the state as a potential model for police accountability cases moving forward. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Supreme Court appears inclined to keep Lisa Cook on the Federal Reserve Board, despite President Trump's attempt to fire her. Lisa Dwyer has details.
During oral arguments before the Supreme Court, the justices seemed inclined to keep Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook in her job, casting doubt on President Donald Trump's effort to fire Cook based on allegations she committed mortgage fraud, which she denies. Critics say the move is purely political.
He wouldn't have said in his opening tweet, "You must resign," and he wouldn't have said 2 days later, "Resign or be fired."
Does that mean it has to be a body of disinterested decision makers?
No.
People who are not part of the executive branch and can exercise independent judgment that way? No? Then no. What does it require?
It requires just what I said: notice, an opportunity to provide evidence, and a decision maker who hasn't prejudged the issue. That decision maker can be the president.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh, a Trump court appointee, says,
your position that there's no judicial review, no process required, no remedy available, very low bar for cause that the president alone determines, that would weaken, if not shatter, the independence of the Federal Reserve that we just discussed.
No president has fired a sitting governor in the 112-year history of the Fed, which was structured to be independent of day-to-day politics. Justice Kavanaugh also raised questions on the future effects of the case.
Let's talk about the real-world downstream effects of this, because if this were set as a precedent, it seems to me, just thinking big picture, what goes around comes around. All the current president's appointees would likely be removed for cause on January 20th, 2029, if there's a Democratic president, or January 20th, 2033.
I'm Lisa Dwyer.
In a surprising reversal, President Trump has backed off his planned tariffs on some European allies over his position on Greenland. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports this as he announces the framework on a deal involving NATO.
Well, the deal is going to be put out pretty soon. We'll see. It's right now a little bit in progress, but pretty far along. It gets us everything we needed to get.
The abrupt cancellation came after the president said he and NATO's chief agreed on a framework of an Arctic security deal while meeting in Switzerland.
Really fantastic for the USA. Gets everything we wanted.
Without giving details. That was hours after an extraordinary speech in Davos, where the president said he wanted to own Greenland.
A piece of ice. Cold and poorly located.
And vital to U.S. security, insisting NATO help America take Greenland from fellow ally Denmark.
It's a very small ask.
The president says the Arctic island is part of North America, our territory, and he wants it.
Including right title and ownership.
The president says he will not use the military to make that happen.
I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force.
Instead, he wants NATO to let the U.S. take Greenland from Denmark, with a warning from the president.
You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
Part of a speech where he repeatedly blasted allies, arguing Europe is going in the wrong direction, unlike the U.S.
And when America booms, the entire world booms. It's been the history.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Contempt charges for the Clintons. ICE agents head to Maine. And Elon Musk's new dream. Those stories and more when America in the Morning continues after these messages. President Trump's trip to Davos, Switzerland didn't go off exactly as planned. Correspondent Donna Warder reports on an electrical problem with Air Force One shortly after takeoff that forced the plane back to Washington, D.C.
White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says about an hour after President Donald Trump left Joint Base Andrews for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Air Force One returned to Andrews Tuesday evening because of a minor electrical issue. A reporter on board Air Force One says the lights in the press cabin went out briefly after takeoff, and about a half an hour into the flight, reporters were told the plane would be turning around. Trump then boarded an Air Force C-32, a modified Boeing 757 used by the president for domestic trips to smaller airports. The two planes that are right now used as Air Force One have been flying for almost 40 years. Boeing has been working on replacements, but that work has faced a series of delays. The luxury Boeing jumbo jet gifted to Trump by Qatar is currently being retrofitted. Donna Warder, Washington.
As the House Oversight Committee has approved contempt charges against Bill and Hillary Clinton, lawmakers move through a bill that allows them to sue to ensure release of the Epstein files, but not as part of Ghislaine Maxwell's case. Correspondent Julie Walker explains.
Congressional co-sponsors of a law forcing the Justice Department to release its files on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell can file a lawsuit seeking a court-appointed observer to ensure compliance, but they lack the legal right to append their demand to her criminal case, according to a ruling from Judge Paul Engelmeyer. He blocked Democratic Representative Ro Khanna and Republican Thomas Massie from intervening in Maxwell's sex trafficking case. The lawmakers, whose Epstein Files Transparency Act was signed into law by President Trump in November, petitioned the judge last week in a bid to speed the public disclosure of files. Engelmeyer largely agreed with the Justice Department's insistence that he, as the judge overseeing Maxwell's case, had no authority to grant Khanna and Massie's request for an independent monitor to ensure the immediate release of more than 2 million documents. Julie Walker, New York.
There's new guidance being rolled out for ICE officers from information leaked in a whistleblower disclosure. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports this as Maine is the latest state to see ICE launch operations.
Federal immigration officers are asserting sweeping power to forcibly enter people's homes without a judge's warrant. An Internal Immigration and Customs Enforcement memo obtained by the AP shows a sharp reversal of long-standing guidance meant to respect constitutional limits on government searches. The memo authorizes ICE officers to use force to enter a home based solely on a more narrow administrative warrant to arrest someone with a final order of removal, a move that advocates say collides with Fourth Amendment protections and upends years of advice given to immigrant communities. A whistleblower complaint said the memo itself has not been widely shared within the agency, but its contents have been used to train new ICE officers who are being deployed into cities and towns to implement President Trump's immigration crackdown. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Donald Trump once owned an airline, and now Elon Musk wants to as well. But the Irish corporate boss of a European budget carrier has other ideas. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
The CEO of Ryanair has dismissed Elon Musk's idea of buying the budget airline and has shrugged off insults from the billionaire in a war of words that erupted over installing Starlink systems on aircraft. The spat between the world's richest individuals and one of Europe's most outspoken corporate bosses has been escalating for days. O'Leary says the airlines ruled out putting Musk's Starlink satellite Wi-Fi on Ryanair planes because the extra fuel drag from the system's antennas would be too costly. Musk fired back on his social media platform X, calling Leary an utter idiot and an imbecile. He then polled his users on the idea of buying the airline. O'Leary says non-European citizens can't own a majority stake in a European airline anyway. Musk was born in South Africa and lives in the US. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Anyone with a computer has likely used Adobe PDFs, but now it comes with a new AI feature. Chuck Palm, as the new old tech guy, has the story.
Adobe just dropped a big update to Acrobat, turning those dusty PDFs into something a lot more lively. In their latest version of Acrobat Studio, they've rolled out generative features that let you chat with your documents and get creative fast. That means you can open up a PDF and turn it into a podcast. You can pull in reports, meeting transcripts, research papers, even web links, put them in a PDF, and the AI assistant creates a podcast-style audio summary. You can even have separate voices for a two-way conversation. Imagine catching up on a long report while driving to work or walking the dog. Right now, it uses models from Microsoft to help for transcription and Google for voices, but Adobe says that could evolve. There's even a Generate Presentation button that takes your documents, pulls out all the insights, and builds a polished pitch deck using Adobe Express designs. You get to pick length, tone, and edit on the fly, eliminating those boring PowerPoint slides. Adobe has been adding AI slowly, with drips and drabs on some of their more popular features, but this could be a real productivity win, especially if you're juggling information overload. Visit thenewoldtechguy.com for our new video podcast recap, and follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Thursday Sports is in. Here's America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
NBA Wednesday, the Thunder blasted the Bucks 122-102, 40 from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The defending champions from Oklahoma City have the best record in the association this season. Pistons own the top mark in the East. They led wire-to-wire in a 112-104 win over the Pelicans. Knicks ripped the Nets 120-66, the most lopsided victory in franchise history. New York coach Mike Brown.
Physicality on and off the ball. Our closeouts to contest were really, really good. You know, they shot 29% for the game.
College hoops, number 1 Arizona slammed Cincinnati 77-51. The Wildcats are 19-0. Number 7 Nebraska whipped Washington 76-66. The Huskers also a perfect 19-0. Baseball, another big bat off the free agent list. Outfielder Cody Bellinger returns to the Yankees on a 5-year, $162.5 million deal. Another day, another trade for the Mets. They sent a couple of prospects to the Brewers for all-star right-hander Freddie Peralta. Hockey, the Ducks down the league-leading Avalanche 2-1 in a shootout. Red Wings shaded the Maple Leafs 2-1 in overtime. Mammoth flipped the Flyers 5-4 in OT. Clayton Keller with the tying and winning goals. Meantime, the Canucks snapped an 11-game losing streak with a 4-3 win over the Capitals. At the Australian Open, 4-seed American Amanda Anisimova was a straight-set winner in the second round. 6-seed Jessica Pegula and Madison Keys, seeded 9th, and the defending champ, easily took their matches. In the men's draw, number 3 Alexander Zverev, 4th seed Novak Djokovic, and top American number 8 Ben Shelton all advanced. That's Thursday Sports.
The Chinese all in on the hot dog when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There's more drama to come in the case between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr explains.
On Tuesday, a treasure trove of communications in the case between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni were released. The case results from the 2024 hit film It Ends With Us. Lively sued director Baldoni for sexual harassment. Baldoni countersued, but that case was dismissed last summer. In the transcript of a deposition by Lively's co-star Jenny Slate, she said working with Baldoni made it a, quote, really gross and disturbing shoot. Slate referenced the TED Talk Baldoni did in 2018.
I don't have a desire to fit into the current broken definition of masculinity, because I don't just want to be a good man. I want to be a good human. And I believe the only way that can happen is if men learn to not only embrace the qualities that we were told are feminine in ourselves, but to be willing to stand up, to champion and learn from the women who embody them.
She said, quote, I really don't get how he did a TED Talk. He is worse than the bros I've encountered. In a text string from Lively's former BFF Taylor Swift, the singer said Baldoni, quote, knows something is coming because he's gotten out his tiny violin, and, quote, this is so disgusting. Lively, who claimed she ghost-directed the film, emailed Ben Affleck and Matt Damon asking them to watch her cut. Texts from Sony Pictures executives were also released, with one calling Lively a, quote, terrorist. I'm Kevin Carr.
You can only imagine what Nathan Handworker would be thinking if he knew the $300 he used from his life savings to start a hot dog stand in Coney Island in 1916 would be worth today. Correspondent Marissa Duhaney reports on the sale of an iconic American hot dog brand to a Chinese-owned pork producer.
Nathan's Famous, which opened as a 5-cent hot dog stand in Coney Island more than a century ago, has been sold to packaged meat giant Smithfield Foods in a $450 million all-cash deal. Like almost every food company, Nathan's has been under significant inflationary pressure. Nathan's sales cost of branded products rose 27%. There was a 20% increase in the average cost per pound of hot dogs.
3, 2, 1.
Nathan's is known for its famous hot dog eating contest, where contestants from around the world gather every 4th of July to see who can down the most hot dogs in 10 minutes. American Joey Chestnut is the reigning hot dog eating champion after eating 70.5 hot dogs and buns last year. He's won 17 of the last 19 events, setting a record in 2021 after wolfing down 76 hot dogs and buns. Smithfield said the event, which has been televised on ESPN with the crowd estimated at 30,000 each year, will continue.
Correspondent Marissa Duhaney. And that's our show for today, Thursday, January 22nd, 2026. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.